This week's Parshat Ki Sisa contains the most perplexing event in the Bible, the worship of the golden calf. We are not talking about that today. In the beginning of the Parsha, God commands Moshe to perform a census, but that each man shall give a half shekel as an atonement for his soul when being counted, so that a plague will not break out. In other words, each man pays a half shekel to charity, and the coin gets counted instead of the person, because counting people results in plagues. So there's a lot to unpack in this idea. If counting Jews is such a bad thing, why did God command it to be done in the first place? And what is it about a half shekel? Why can't it be a pebble or a nut or something else of value? The questions on the mechanics of this transaction go on, but you get the idea that this is a commandment with much beneath the surface. I'd like to share a deep idea that answers these questions and that I think is super relevant today, especially for people that work to make a living. There are many that don't. Students, retired people, house spouses, people living off investments. I'm not lifestyle, but some people, go to work for a paycheck. So anyway, first, if we're talking about atoning for a soul, what is a soul? So the soul is a piece of God that was blown by God into Adam's nostrils, Adam. This soul brought life to the lifeless pile of dirt that Adam was before the soul entered his body. Each human gets a piece of this soul as they enter the earth, and when this soul leaves their body at the end, that is when their body loses life. The soul of a man is the part that connects to his story, the part that is attracted to tasks and projects that are aligned with his true purpose of being here in the world, the part that generates positive spirit when it is being engaged, the part that makes him believe he was created in the image of God, the part that is born free and feels free and yearns to be free. The soul is the seat of your individuality, and it is on this world looking for self-realization. That's its purpose in this world. This part of man existed before the sin in the Garden of Eden, and it still exists in man today. So why atone for a soul using the half shekel over a pebble or anything else? So the half shekel is used to atone for the individual soul because it was the currency with which people were able to trade and store their human efforts. Think of currency or gold in earlier times as a battery or a storage device that holds your past energy and effort in the same way that a bottle holds water. If not for this invention of currency or gold, we would have to store our past efforts in physical objects, such as food. People work to plant grain, and they have a silo full of wheat. That is a store of their past effort. Or animals or property or structures. That would be the only way to store past efforts. By the way, barter societies that do not use currency live exactly like this. They'll trade corn for a chair. So why does the soul need atonement for being part of a census? To the point that without the atonement, the plague will break out. I think it's because the census groups people together by age, by tribe, by nation. It's about the group. It's not about the individual. The group is crucially important, and that's why God commands there be a census, because we need the census. But God also warns that the soul, the seat of man's individuality, will need an atonement for being identified just by its physical groupings, not by its individual purpose. There's a price to pay for that. And how does a portion of man's past efforts, represented by the half shekel coin, atone for his soul? What does his work effort have to do with his soul? So, after the sin in the garden, God cursed the earth so that it became less hospitable to man, requiring man's hard labor in order for him to survive. The energy for this labor comes from the soul as the seed of life. Therefore, all of man's work contains within it a piece of his soul. And because the coin contains within it the value of man's efforts, it also contains within it a measure of his soul. What this tells us is that work, by definition, saps the soul's energy. It uses soul energy. When man's labor is not also soul nurturing, but only soul costing, then eventually a man's soul becomes weaker and more blocked, with less ability to shine through and less ability to generate energy. But if man's labor is aligned with his soul's purpose, then his work not only spends soul energy, but generates new energy, and his soul grows stronger and more open. This is a similar idea, by the way, to the saying, do what you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. So a much simpler way of saying it. What this piece of Torah is saying to me, though, is that we all need to find what makes us uniquely ourselves and pursue it. And to the extent we ignore our soul's individuality and our soul's drives, then we will need to atone for this through hard work. Just being counted in a group will cost us a half shekel of hard work. Other forms of ignoring our soul's individuality may cost us a lot more than a half shekel of hard work. In fact, if someone is completely ignoring their soul and works to survive in what you would call a soul-deadening job that means nothing to them and is just a dreary paycheck, they might be truly miserable because they are living the post-sin reality of a cursed earth and hard labor necessary for survival. But someone that does what they love and their soul bursts with energy because of their passion, then they can live in the pre-sin reality of the Garden of Eden, where the earth was not cursed and hard labor was not necessary for survival. But we know that there is only one earth right now, and the reality is, unfortunately, that it is the post-sin world of hard labor. So this pre-sin reality that I just described is currently more a state of mind than it is a physical reality. But if you cultivate this state of mind, then the work doesn't feel hard. It feels pleasurable. And eventually, if enough people cultivate this state of mind and live in this fashion, then we will succeed in changing the reality back to the pre-sin version through the arrival of Mashiach soon in our days. I want to bless all of us that we strive to reach this state of mind where our work and our lives are meaningful to us and give strength to our souls, and that we live with pleasure and gratitude rather than hard work and suffering, because Mashiach will be here when enough of us are living in this way. Shabbat Shalom from the heart of exile, New York. May God hear my prayers and bring me home soon to our holy land and to my family.